scenario is a scenario. We should have learned, people in authority should have studied what was happening, and the authorities and someone from the government should have immediately intervened to say that we are going to respond to the requests. The problem is that the protests spread out to the third day, and on the third day it was obvious there were very new infiltrators.
إضافة إلى المرور، مشيرا إلى أن أعداد المتظاهرين بالمحافظة بلغ أكثر من 20,000 متظاهر. وأكد المحافظ أن تلك التظاهرات بدأت سلمية حتى تم الدفع بعناصر مندسة قامت بالتخريب ومهاجمة الشرطة. وعن الأوضاع في بورسعيد، فقد صرح اللواء مصطفى عبد اللطيف محافظ بورسعيد بأن المظاهرات خفت في المحافظة.
Elsewhere, and we saw clashes with the security people. So the demo, which was hoped for as a free expression, and suddenly we found a deviation.
كنت أتمنى إنه سيادتك باليوم الثالث يبقى الدولة كده متأخرة، الحكومة متأخرة في اتخاذ القرار السليم في التوقيت والمكان الصحيح. كان المفروض إن الحكومة بعد اليوم الأول واليوم الثاني من المظاهرات
سيد بشير عبد الفتاح مدير تحرير مجلة الديمقراطية بالأهرام. سيد بشير، قراءتك للأحداث، وهل عاد الهدوء من جديد لشوارع القاهرة؟
يعني حتى هذه اللحظة يصعب الجزم ما إذا كانت الأمور قد عادت إلى طبيعتها أم لا، لأنني لازلت في منزلي في شارع الهرم الحقيقة، يعني لست على دراية بالأوضاع.
أنا سمعت أيضا ما تفضل به الكثير حول
joining the demonstration. In some areas, the reports that you just cited, I think those are isolated cases, but you can never say, I mean, in the ultimate analysis, it is the army which has to be the guardian of order here, which is why whenever they discuss the succession to President Hosni Mubarak, the army's view comes in when it comes to this critical question. So therefore, they will have their view on the events unfolding. But so far, they've been ordered by their commander-in-chief to help the police maintain order. And from the sounds I'm hearing around me, including the helicopters and the loud explosions, that's what they're doing now.
Lise Doucette speaking to me a little earlier. You're watching BBC News. We are bringing you all the latest developments on the situation in Egypt. We are hearing
movement so far, and that still remains the case as the people speak in a loud and to this point unified voice.
The situation is far from over here, and the people are all chanting down, down with the regime. There is nothing more clearer that the message is coming out of these people. There you go, exactly that. Don't stay here, Mubarak. It's their clear, simple message that they want to get across.
Still no response from President Mubarak as to whether he'll listen to their demands for a new leader, nor any indication of how he plans to bring these protests to an end. But it's sure that a man who's maintained state of emergency powers for all of his 30-year reign will not be letting go lightly. Dan Nolan, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
These live pictures from our bureau, Al Jazeera's bureau in Cairo, and interestingly the same pictures slightly closer of the burning headquarters of the ruling National Democratic Party, the party that's been in power in Cairo for so long, the party which represents the President Hosni Mubarak, the party which supposedly won
ريسا، وهو كمين متواجد على بعد حوالي 5 كيلومترات بعد مدينة العريش باتجاه الطريق الدولي لمدينة رفح. فتح المسلحين النار على الكمين، ربما كان أكثر من 10 مسلحين.
And as we look at that, and I mention once again, these are pictures on Egyptian state-run television, also showing on Al Jazeera. No surprise that we would be showing that, but the state television is showing them too. I just want to give everybody a heads up that pretty soon we're expecting to hear from the Speaker of the Parliament, that's Ahmed Fatih Surur. Ahmed Fatih Surur going to come on to Egyptian state television, we've been told, to make a statement. We have yet to hear from Hosni Mubarak, the President. And as we go through from Egyptian television pictures back once again to ours, I'm going to bring in Abdullah Schleifer, who is in Cairo.
لا نعلم عددهم حتى الآن أو موقف الإصابات فيها حتى الآن. الموقف يزداد خطورة في شمال سيناء، ونذكر أن شمال سيناء في احتجاجاتها تختلف عن.
Statement do you expect?
Well, I can't really say because, you know, these events are so.
Syrian authorities have broken up a protest camp outside the Prime Minister's office in the capital Tunis. The camp was set up 5 days ago to demand the removal of all ministers with ties to the deposed regime of former President Ben Ali. Protesters. Prime Minister Mohamed Khanouchi, who served in the same post under Ben Ali, is one of the few high-ranking officials.
What he's going to say. The fact that Egyptian television is broadcasting these pictures could be significant or not at all, because they're aware of the fact, and they've learned this bitter lesson, that they can't just ignore it. People are going to watch Al Jazeera or watch other Arab satellite television channels that are carrying these pictures of what's going on in the streets.
When you see the pictures of the tanks moving down the streets, the armoured personnel carriers, with soldiers poking out of the turrets, waving Egyptian flags and glad-handing the protesters and allowing them to jump onto their vehicles, what does that tell you?
It tells me that right now
كان في مداخلة على التلفزيون المصري منذ ساعة تقريبا، وأطلق مناشدة لبدو سيد.
Egypt. Fire was also set to many police vehicles.
وللمزيد
منشية، الرمل، سيدي جابر، سيدي بشر and العصافرة. In Suez, protesters also clashed with police forces where looting and chaos was reported. Military forces have now secured vital utilities in Cairo, Alexandria and Suez. President Hosni Mubarak is expected to deliver a speech to the nation. The army has secured properties in Cairo, Alexandria and Suez. It has also secured the Egyptian Museum where vandalism has taken place. There has also been reports of looting in Al-Umraniya police station. Armed forces are now said to have spread across Cairo, Suez and Alexandria. Reports have been trickling in of some acts of vandalism and looting in banks and hotels, which have been subjected to damage. Clashes occurred earlier in the day between security forces and protesters, those mounted in downtown Cairo. And in view of the acts of violence, vandalism and destruction at some of the public and private places and properties which erupted in several governorates, President Hosni Mubarak, in his capacity as the military ruler, has imposed a curfew in Greater Cairo, Alexandria and Suez governorates in Egypt, starting as of Friday the 28th at 6 p.m. and until 7 a.m. Saturday. Although that may be changed, we will be waiting and bringing you the latest updates as they come in. The President has also issued directives to the armed forces in coordination with the police to implement the decree and maintain peace and safeguard public utilities and properties. Again, we'd like to remind you that the police and the armed forces have secured the Egyptian Museum of Vandalism has
official statements, and he hasn't made any, and the Prime Minister hasn't made any.
A final thought, if you would, Professor, at the moment from you, when you talk about the way the army has been received the streets, you make the point that the Presidential Guard is very different from the regular army. But if the Presidential Guard
have been rumored to have
التعامل معهم.
يعني احنا عملنا تغطية شاملة لكل الأحداث اللي حصلت في أكثر من 4 صفحات أو 5 صفحات بنغطي فيها كل الأحداث بموضوعية تامة. وفيما يتعلق بالموقع الإلكتروني الأهرام في مشاكل في الإنترنت
فيمثل السيناريو
الرقيب السابق في الجيش
وده اللي هيعمله فتح السور.
Significant, but it's a smaller unit. It doesn't have the capacity of imposing a curfew on the city of Cairo. It has the capacity simply to defend a well-armed defense of some key positions, including the presidential palace, Ministry of Information, possibly the Foreign Ministry.
Well, thanks for clearing that up for me. I appreciate that. Abdullah Schleifer talking to us from Cairo. These are the latest pictures, and let's bring in Ayman Mohyeddin for us. Ayman, I don't know whether you can see what we're looking at, but once again we're seeing armoured vehicles moving down the streets. We're seeing protesters outside defying the curfew. What can you tell us?
That's right, David. The focus for most of the passerbys on the 6th of October bridge has now really shifted to the building, the NDP building, which, as you can see from our live pictures there, completely on fire as it has been several hours now. Most of the traffic that you're seeing has come to a slow grind on that bridge while people try and just make sense of what is happening here in Cairo. These are certainly times very few of these people would have ever expected. Now, as we are talking about the NDP headquarters, it's very important to kind of put it in context what this party symbolizes. It is Egypt's ruling party. It is a party that won near
Egyptian cities. In a statement released by his office, Nazif had received reports from the Ministries of Interior and Health, as well as relevant ministries over the developments of the situation. The Premier stressed the significance of increasing security around public and private buildings. He warned against some elements who were trying to exploit the current situation in which youths took to the streets to express their opinions. Also on Thursday, Secretary-General of the National Democratic Party, Safwat al-Sharif, had held a press conference from the NDP Secretariat's headquarters. Al-Sharif said that the NDP bureau was following
impact on the Egyptian economy and others. If you just put it in context of what has happened in the past 72 hours since Tuesday's events, the Egyptian stock market, which on Thursday was suspended shortly after 15 minutes of opening because of the plummet of prices that happened, you get a sense of what today will mean for the Egyptian economy in the coming days. The Egyptian stock market over the past 48 hours had lost something in the ballpark of $40 billion US.
tourists, about my understanding, about 12% of it. And so when rumors of this type of event was going to take place ahead of Friday prayers, you can imagine that business people, investors, the tourism industry were very much on alert, very, very jittery. And you can certainly bet that the Egyptian economy is going to struggle very much, at least in